Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human psyche, left us a profound message, one that echoes in the hidden corridors of our unconscious mind. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This truth doesn't just speak to the mysteries of the mind, it touches the very essence of our emotional lives. Especially in the realm of love and relationships, this teaching becomes a beacon of insight. Because the way we love, the way we connect with others, is not random. It's not luck or misfortune. It's not simply that we fall for someone by chance. The truth is far more intimate and confronting. Our relationships are mirrors. What we experience in love is, in many ways, the purest reflection of what lies within us. When love feels shallow, repetitive, or painful, it is rarely a coincidence. It's often a symptom, a sign that we are deeply disconnected from ourselves. If we haven't ventured into the darker parts of our being, if we haven't taken the time to embrace our inner world in its entirety, the beautiful, the broken, the shadowed, we are likely to find ourselves stuck in cycles of unfulfilling, even destructive relationships. Have you ever asked yourself why it seems like you attract the same kind of partner over and over again? Why you seem to live out the same emotional patterns, as if you're trapped in an endless loop? Jung provides a powerful answer. We attract what we are. More precisely, we attract people and dynamics that resonate with our deepest, often unconscious beliefs. Imagine for a moment that you are a magnet. Your energetic field, what you believe, what you fear, what you carry from the past, has a frequency, and this frequency draws in experiences that match it. If you carry unresolved fear deep inside you, you'll attract situations that reinforce that fear. If you carry childhood wounds of feeling invisible or unloved, you might unconsciously seek relationships that make you beg for attention, that echo your past hurts. This isn't a curse. It's not some cruel cosmic punishment. It's an opportunity, a powerful invitation to grow. Jung called this the process of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole, of integrating every lost or rejected piece of who we are, so we no longer project our inner wounds onto the world around us, especially onto the people we claim to love. The tragedy is that most people search for love before ever forming a healthy relationship with themselves. They want someone else to heal them, to complete them, to fill the voids they never dared to face. But no partner, no matter how kind or devoted, can do that work for you. The other is not your savior. They are a mirror that will show you, sometimes gently, sometimes painfully, everything you've yet to confront within yourself. When you do not fully love yourself, you settle, you accept crumbs, and convince yourself it's a feast. You mistake suffering for passion, endurance for loyalty. You believe love is about enduring pain, about sacrificing your needs, about losing yourself in another. But that is not love. That is fear. The fear of being alone, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of facing the silence of your own soul. And fear has never built anything real. It does not create healthy, lasting bonds. Fear breeds attachment, dependency, and ultimately, suffering. This is where Jung introduces us to one of his most powerful concepts, the shadow. The shadow is everything we've repressed, denied, or refused to acknowledge in ourselves. It's not just the painful memories or the shameful moments. It's also our strength, our raw authenticity, the parts of us we were told to hide. In relationships, the shadow creeps in quietly. It shows up in our jealousy, in our constant need to argue or control, in our patterns of submission or silence. When we don't integrate our shadow, we end up projecting it onto the person we love. We blame them for our unhappiness. We put them on a pedestal, then tear them down when they disappoint us. But what we see in them is often just a reflection of our own fragmented self. So, if you want to stop living out mediocre love stories, if you want to experience a love that's deep, conscious, and transformative, you have to do what most people avoid. Look inward. Ask yourself the hard questions. Explore your history. Face your wounds. Examine your fears. Get radically honest about the relationship you have with yourself. Because here's the truth. The love you give and the love you allow yourself to receive will never exceed the love you have for yourself. If inside you there is scarcity, you will attract scarcity. If you carry rejection within you, you will call in people who reject you. But if you cultivate wholeness, if you do the inner work to know and embrace every part of yourself, you will naturally attract the love that mirrors that same completeness. And here lies the ultimate revelation. When you truly love yourself, you stop tolerating anything that doesn't align with your worth. You no longer settle for emotional scraps. You no longer beg for attention or validation. You know who you are. You know what you deserve. And you are no longer willing to compromise that truth. This doesn't mean that love becomes effortless or without challenges, but now you walk the path of love with clarity, with boundaries, with power. You choose partners from a place of abundance, not need. You enter relationships as a whole being, not a half searching for completion. People who genuinely love themselves are not afraid of solitude. They understand that solitude is not a punishment. It's a sacred space for growth, for self-discovery, for deep transformation. It is from this inner abundance that true love is born, not from desperation, not from lack, but from the overflowing essence of a soul that has already found home within itself. So, if you've ever felt that love has wounded you, that you gave your all and were left empty in return, remember this: love does not hurt. What hurts is attachment. What hurts is the absence of boundaries. What hurts is being disconnected from your own heart, from your own truth. What hurts is giving yourself away before truly knowing who you are. But the beauty is this: it can be healed, it can be transformed, and it all begins with a simple but powerful decision to stop running from yourself and to finally turn inward. Because when you do, you'll find that the love you've always been searching for was never in someone else's arms. It was within you all along. Carl Jung reminds us of a profound truth. The journey to wholeness does not lie outside of us, but within. The key is not to find someone who will love us, but to become someone who truly and deeply loves themselves. Because when that shift happens, when you start inhabiting your own authenticity and fully embrace every part of who you are, love stops being a struggle or a need to be fulfilled. It becomes a conscious choice, a sacred alignment. The universe does not respond to your wishes. It responds to your being. And if your being is whole, integrated, and filled with self-love, then what you will attract into your life will reflect that very same frequency. You won't draw in superficial affection or temporary companionship. You'll magnetize a love that is real, one that doesn't wear masks, doesn't play games, and is free of mediocrity. A love that is deep, transformative, and rooted in truth. Because when you truly love yourself, when you have confronted your shadows and integrated even the most hidden parts of your soul, you are no longer afraid of releasing what doesn't nourish you, what doesn't uplift you, what doesn't resonate with your truth. And that's where the real magic begins. It begins when you stop clinging to what was never meant for you, when you start trusting that you deserve more, when you choose your peace over your fear. In that sacred act of letting go, the universe listens, the right doors open, the right people appear. What once seemed impossible suddenly becomes your new reality. Because life, every relationship, every opportunity, every experience is a reflection of your inner state. If there is love inside of you, then what you will find on the outside can only mirror that. So the real question becomes, are you ready? Ready to love yourself fully? Ready to release what no longer resonates with you? Ready to build a relationship that begins in wholeness, not in lack? The answer lies within you. When you begin to love yourself without conditions, you undergo a radical shift in how you connect with others. You stop seeking validation from the outside world because you've learned how to validate yourself. You no longer beg for affection or attention because you understand that true love is never something to be begged for. It flows freely where it is meant to be. You no longer cling to relationships that drain your energy because you've discovered that inner peace is worth far more than any toxic companionship. This is a deep transformation of consciousness, one that changes everything. Jung taught that our relationships are the clearest mirrors of our unconscious. Everything that bothers you in others, everything you admire, and everything you fear losing is, in fact, a projection of something within yourself. This means the love you attract is a direct reflection of your level of consciousness. If you feel insecure, you will attract partners who trigger that insecurity. If you feel unworthy, your relationships will reflect that lack, making you feel like you're never enough. But if you feel whole, if you love yourself with authenticity and fullness, then the love that comes into your life will be an extension of that self-love. Here lies the great paradox. Most people are searching for love outside themselves, unaware that real love begins within. Many go from one relationship to another, hoping that someone else will give them what they have not yet given themselves. But this only leads to frustration, to pain, to the aching feeling of emptiness. Jung reminds us that the process of individuation, the sacred journey of integrating all parts of the self, is the only path toward living authentically. And in matters of love, this means no longer looking outward for what can only be found inward. When you truly love yourself, you become selective with your energy, not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. You begin to recognize that not every connection is healthy. You start to notice patterns you once ignored, red flags that used to pass by unnoticed. You feel with clarity when a bond is based on dependency and when it is based on growth. You no longer feel the need to fix others because you have realized that everyone has their own journey, their own timing. You stop settling for less than what you deserve because you have learned to give yourself the best. And in this understanding arises a truth that many are afraid to face. Most people fear being alone, not because solitude is unbearable, but because in the silence of their own company, they must face their shadows. It is easier to distract oneself with relationships, with validation from others, with the noise of the world, than it is to sit quietly and look within. But if you cannot dare to know yourself, to embrace both your light and your darkness, how can you expect to build a love that is true? Jung once said that love truly begins when the mask falls off, when we stop playing a role just to please others, and instead dare to show up as we really are, without fear of being rejected. That moment of vulnerability, when you choose authenticity over performance, is the true gateway to love. And it's not an easy path. Society teaches us to perform, to adapt, to mold ourselves into what others expect. But Jung's insight reminds us that love cannot flourish in pretense. It only grows in truth. You may have noticed that when someone doesn't have a good relationship with themselves, they inevitably project their inner conflicts onto the people around them. A person who hasn't made peace with their own emotions or traumas tends to bring chaos into their relationships, not because they are bad or unlovable, but because they are operating from wounds that haven't yet healed. People who are dominated by fear, by insecurity, or by a desperate need for control end up creating dynamics of pain and suffering with others. Their relationships become cycles of argument, jealousy, manipulation, and emotional instability. And this isn't because love is inherently difficult. It's not. It's because the people involved have not yet done the inner work needed to love in a healthy, conscious way. Until you embark on the journey of self-knowledge and healing, you'll keep finding yourself in the same situations, attracting the same emotional lessons, just wrapped in different faces. It will seem like you're repeating history over and over, without realizing that the common thread is within you. But when you begin to love yourself fully, deeply, and without conditions, everything changes. You not only transform the way you relate to yourself, but also the quality of the connections you build with others. Because healthy love isn't a battlefield. It's not a space of constant sacrifice or emotional exhaustion. It's not about losing yourself in someone else or trying to be what they want. True, healthy love is growth. It's freedom. It's expansion. It's choosing to be with someone not because you're afraid of being alone, not because you're trying to fill an emotional void, but because you genuinely want to share your life with them. You want to build something together from a place of wholeness, not from need. And in order to reach that kind of love, you must first cultivate a peaceful, fulfilling relationship with yourself. You have to be able to enjoy your own company and feel at ease in your own presence. You have to learn how to meet your own needs, to value yourself, to respect yourself, to choose yourself. Jung said that most people aren't truly aware of their own consciousness. That is, they react to life and relationships automatically, without understanding where their emotions or behaviors come from. In love, this unconsciousness manifests as fear-based attachment, desperate need, or harmful idealization. It creates relationships where people are trying to heal their wounds through someone else. But when you truly love yourself, you become more self-aware. You stop seeking love to save you. You're no longer hoping that someone else will come and fix what's broken inside you. Instead, you look for a partner who complements your life, not because you are incomplete, but because you recognize the beauty of sharing your journey with someone who has also done their own healing. However, to get to this place, you must first confront your shadow. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. Why have I accepted less than I deserve? What do I really believe about love, about relationships, about what it means to be with someone? Because many of those beliefs aren't even yours. You inherited them from your family, from society, from past experiences that left emotional scars. If you don't examine and challenge these beliefs, you'll keep reliving the same emotional patterns. You'll find yourself in relationships that feel familiar but unfulfilling, because deep down, you're repeating the same story, just with different characters. But when you begin to love yourself completely, something incredible happens. You stop looking outward for validation, for approval, for love. You realize that everything you are seeking in others already exists within you. You no longer need someone to tell you you're worthy, because you know it. You no longer need to be chosen, because you choose yourself every single day. And that kind of inner security changes everything. It changes how you walk through the world. It changes the way you speak, the way you set boundaries, the way you love. You no longer operate from scarcity, but from abundance. You stop seeking approval and start radiating authenticity. And when you are vibrating at that level of authenticity, you naturally attract people who have also done the inner work. People who love themselves, who won't drain your energy, who will support your growth. That's why the key to avoiding mediocre love isn't about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person. It's not about fixing others. It's about healing the relationship you have with yourself. Because ultimately, your experience of love is just a mirror reflecting who you are and how you perceive yourself. When you truly love yourself, when you've embraced your shadow, when you've let go of the need to be rescued, love stops being a power struggle. It becomes a deep, soul-level connection. It becomes a gift, not a burden. It no longer feels like a battle or a never-ending sacrifice. Love becomes simple, nourishing, expansive. But for that to happen, you must first learn how to love yourself in that same way. If you've been settling for relationships that don't fulfill you, if you've believed that love always comes with pain, or that you'll never find the right person, I want you to remember this. The love you're searching for is already within you. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to earn it. You just have to awaken it. And when you do, everything changes. Because when you love yourself completely, when you truly see, value, and respect yourself, you stop accepting anything that isn't aligned with your truth. And that's when you begin to attract the kind of love you always deserved. But the first step is yours to take. Are you ready to love yourself fully? Are you willing to face your shadows, to leave behind mediocre love, and open your heart to a relationship that reflects your highest self? The choice is yours. When you love yourself completely, you not only change the way you relate to others, you change the way you experience life itself. You stop seeing love as a desperate need, and you start seeing it as a conscious choice. You're no longer in a rush to find someone, because you understand that the most important connection is the one you have with your own essence. You're not looking to be completed by someone else, because you've discovered that you are already whole. Those who haven't done this inner work tend to cling to relationships that bring them suffering. They stay where they are not valued. They settle for less than they deserve. They excuse behavior they know deep down they shouldn't tolerate. But that doesn't happen by accident. Carl Jung would explain that many of the patterns we unconsciously repeat in our relationships stem from the way we've been programmed to perceive love, not as something abundant and fulfilling, but as something scarce and conditional. From a young age, many of us have been conditioned to equate love with suffering, with sacrifice, and with the need to earn affection, rather than simply receive it. This distorted perspective doesn't come from a place of wholeness, but from a deep-rooted lack, specifically, a lack of self-love. When self-love is absent, we become vulnerable. We start accepting crumbs of affection, mistaking them for genuine connection. And in many cases, our own mind tricks us into believing that the pain we experience in relationships is normal. We begin to associate love with struggle, with longing, with the idea that real love always hurts. But the truth is, what actually hurts is the disconnection we feel from our own essence. The real suffering comes not from loving another, but from abandoning ourselves in the process. Love, in its truest form, was never meant to be about sacrificing ourselves for someone who doesn't value us. It's not about losing our identity in another person in a desperate attempt to keep a relationship afloat. According to Jungian psychology, what we're really doing in such cases is projecting an unhealed wound onto our partner. Often this wound originates in childhood. Perhaps we didn't feel loved enough. Or maybe we grew up in homes where affection was conditional, inconsistent, or entirely absent. And so, without even realizing it, we go on a subconscious quest to find the love we never received. In that search, we might cling to people who reflect the same dysfunctions we witnessed growing up. We recreate familiar dynamics, not because they're healthy, but because they're known. This is why healing the relationship we have with ourselves is the only path toward attracting a truly healthy love. Because the world we see outside is always a mirror of the world we carry inside. When you begin to love yourself, truly, deeply, unapologetically, you start to notice something incredible. Many of the relationships you once tolerated simply no longer resonate with who you are becoming. The dynamics of pain, dependency, and emotional manipulation begin to lose their grip on you. And although this shift can feel uncomfortable at first, almost like shedding an old skin, you begin to experience a sense of peace, an inner calm that you never knew was possible. You no longer crave to be chosen by someone else, because you've already chosen yourself. You don't wait around for others to validate your worth, because you now know you are enough. And this inner transformation changes everything. Self-love isn't just a pretty concept or a motivational phrase you stick on your mirror. It's a real energy, a frequency you emit. People who genuinely love themselves radiate a different kind of presence. It's not arrogance, it's not superiority, it's quiet confidence, it's inner security. It's the serenity of knowing you don't have to chase, cling, or prove yourself, because what is meant for you will find its way to you, effortlessly and in divine timing. It's the trust in being okay with solitude, because your own company no longer feels like a void, but a sanctuary. It's the strength to say no to what doesn't nourish your soul, because you finally realized you deserve more. And when you carry this kind of energy, your entire reality shifts. People see you differently. Opportunities align more organically. And the relationships you attract are more authentic, more respectful, and more aligned with your true self. When you respect yourself, others will reflect that respect back to you. When you value yourself, others will value you too. When you choose yourself first, life starts placing people in your path who will also choose you, not out of need, not out of fear of being alone, but from a place of genuine, wholehearted love. But this level of transformation doesn't come without effort. It requires courage. It demands radical honesty. You have to look at yourself and recognize all the times you settled for less than you deserved. You have to admit when you accepted mistreatment because you feared being alone. And then, most importantly, you have to decide to make a different choice. It means walking away from relationships that drain you, even when it hurts. It means setting boundaries, even if others don't understand or accept them. It means no longer justifying the unjustifiable and putting yourself first, without guilt. Not because you don't care about others, but because you finally care enough about yourself. This journey is not easy. Jung described the path to individuation, the process of becoming your true, authentic self, as a difficult but necessary awakening. It forces us to face the parts of ourselves we've hidden, rejected, or suppressed for years. But it is precisely in that confrontation that the true transformation takes place. It is there, in the fire of self-awareness, that we stop being fragmented versions of ourselves and become whole. And from that place of wholeness, love takes on an entirely new meaning. It is no longer about filling a void or completing something that feels broken. Love becomes an extension of the fullness already present within you. True love doesn't come from need, it comes from conscious choice, from the decision to share your life with someone who has also done the work to find themselves. It is not a constant struggle to hold on to someone, but a harmonious partnership where both people grow individually and together without losing their essence. And the most beautiful part, when you reach that level of consciousness, love flows effortlessly. There's no drama, no desperate need to prove yourself, no performance required, just presence, just alignment, just truth. So if you've ever felt that love is complicated, if you've found yourself stuck in the same painful dynamics or struggling to connect on a deeper level, remember this: the quality of your relationships does not depend on luck. It depends on your level of awareness. Change the way you relate to yourself, and you will change everything you attract into your life. Treat yourself with love, and you will attract love. Honor your worth, and others will honor it too. Choose yourself, and you will be chosen by those who can see your value without you having to beg for it. The real question isn't, when will I find the right person? It's, am I willing to become the right person for myself? Because when that happens, everything changes. Love is no longer a maze of pain and confusion. It becomes the most beautiful, liberating experience you can live. When you love yourself fully, you don't just change the way you experience love. You transform how you show up in the world. You stop begging for attention. You stop seeking external validation. You no longer need someone else to confirm what you already know, that you are enough, that you are worthy, that love should never be a battlefield or a sacrifice. This is the turning point in every person's life. The moment you stop settling for the minimum and start choosing what truly aligns with your soul. But here's the truth: not everyone is ready for this kind of love. Many people will remain in mediocre relationships simply because it's all they've ever known. They'll choose the comfort of the familiar over the challenge of growth. And that's okay. Every person is on their own journey. But if you've made it this far, if you're still listening, it's because something inside you has already shifted. Deep down, you know you're meant for something greater, something real, something sacred. Real love isn't something you chase. It's something you magnetize when you've done the inner work. And this work never ends. Personal growth is a lifelong journey. There will always be shadows to face, wounds to heal, beliefs to challenge. But every step you take toward your truth is a step toward a fuller, freer, more aligned life. You don't need to change anyone. You don't need to convince anyone to love you. You just need to be fully, unapologetically yourself, without fear, without masks, without settling. Now, it's your turn to decide. Will you keep repeating the same patterns, hoping that someone else will change? Or will you choose to change from within and become the person who is truly ready to live a deep, healthy, conscious love? It's not about luck. It's not about fate. It's about energy. It's about raising your vibration, expanding your self-awareness, and cultivating a love for yourself so profound that the love you experience becomes a direct reflection of all that inner work. If this message resonated with you, if you believe it could help someone else, share it. There are so many people still trapped in relationships that harm them. So many who still think love is meant to hurt. They don't know there's another way to live it. And maybe this is the message they've been waiting for. The message that finally wakes them up and gives them the courage to take that first step toward real change. So leave a comment. Tell me, what part of this message touched your heart the most? What are you ready to do differently in your life? And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next message. Every time you interact, when you like, comment, or share, you help this message reach more people. You help more hearts awaken, more lives transform. Because every single person deserves a love that expands them, a love that nourishes them, a love that never asks them to betray who they truly are. Remember, the love you're searching for is already inside you. And when you truly discover it, when you fully embrace it, the love that shows up in your life is simply a reflection of all that you've already become. See you in the next video. Throughout life, we all reach a point where we stop and ask ourselves, is this all there is? For many, this moment arrives around the age of 40, and that is no coincidence. It is the age when the masks we have worn for years begin to fall away, when the illusion of what we once thought would bring us happiness starts to crumble, and when the call of the soul becomes impossible to ignore. Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He did not see this crisis as a problem, but as an opportunity, an opening, a doorway to something greater. He believed that true rebirth, the real beginning of life, does not occur in our youth. It happens when we dare to uncover who we truly are, when we find the courage to strip away the layers of conditioning and expectations that have shaped us into something we were never meant to be. For years, we have lived with a borrowed identity. We became who we were told we should be. We followed the path that was laid out for us without questioning if it was truly ours. We studied what we were told would bring us stability. We surrounded ourselves with people who fit the image we want to project. From the outside, everything seemed fine. Life appeared to be on track. And yet, at some point, an emptiness began to creep in. At first, we tried to ignore it. We distracted ourselves. We buried ourselves in work, in family responsibilities, in the endless pursuit of productivity. We convinced ourselves that if we just stayed busy enough, the feeling would go away. But it didn't. The emptiness remained. It revealed itself in subtle ways, through a lack of enthusiasm, through emotional exhaustion, through a persistent sensation that, despite having done everything right, something was missing. Jung called this phenomenon the process of individuation, the journey toward integrating the true self. In the first half of life, we are taught to build a strong ego, to construct an identity that allows us to function in society. We learn to play the roles assigned to us, the responsible student, the devoted parent, the hardworking professional. We become masters of fulfilling expectations. But then comes a turning point, a moment when life demands something more from us. If we ignore this call, the unconscious will start sending us increasingly stronger signals. Anxiety, dissatisfaction, a feeling of being trapped in a life that no longer feels like our own. For Jung, these symptoms were not problems to be eliminated, but messages to be deciphered. They were the psyche's way of telling us that change was necessary, that growth was waiting just beyond our resistance. This is the point where many people experience a crisis. They feel lost, as if they have taken a wrong turn somewhere along the way. They begin to believe that something is deeply wrong with them. But the truth is far more profound. What they're experiencing is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of something extraordinary. Rebirth is not a conclusion. It is an initiation. It is the opportunity to let go of everything that no longer serves you, to release the beliefs you have carried for years without ever questioning whether they were truly yours. It is a chance to rediscover what truly nourishes your soul, what sets your heart on fire, what makes you feel alive. But in order to get there, you must be willing to face your shadow. Jung spoke of the shadow as all those aspects of ourselves that we have repressed because they did not fit the image we wanted to maintain. The fear of rejection, the guilt we have buried, the desires we have denied, the emotions we have learned to suppress. But here's the truth. The shadow does not disappear just because we ignore it. On the contrary, it grows stronger. It manifests in the patterns we repeat, in the relationships that drain us, in the choices we make that go against our own well-being. Every time you feel that something's off in your life, every time you react in a way that even you don't fully understand, it is your shadow trying to emerge, trying to be acknowledged. But here's a real secret. The shadow is not your enemy. It is a part of you that is yearning to be seen, understood, and integrated. You cannot be reborn while still running from what makes you uncomfortable. You cannot start anew while clinging to a version of yourself that no longer represents who you are becoming. The process is not easy. It requires courage. It demands a willingness to sit with your discomfort, to question your assumptions, to dismantle the false sense of security you have built. But it is the only path to true freedom. Many people believe that the ultimate goal of life is to find happiness. They spend their days chasing fleeting moments of joy, believing that once they attain a certain milestone, a successful career, a stable relationship, financial security, or societal recognition, they will finally achieve the happiness they have been seeking. But is happiness really the ultimate purpose of life? Jung saw things differently. He believed that the true purpose of life is not mere happiness, but a deep sense of fulfillment, something far more profound and lasting. And true fulfillment is only found when you stop living according to the expectations of others and begin to align your life with your inner truth. This does not mean that you have to change everything overnight. It does not mean abandoning your responsibilities or making impulsive decisions. But it does mean that you must start listening, truly listening, to that quiet voice within you, the one you have ignored for far too long. Perhaps you have felt it, a lingering sense of discomfort, a subtle but persistent feeling that something in your life no longer fits. Maybe it's a relationship that feels more like an obligation than an authentic connection. Maybe the job that provides financial stability but slowly drains your spirit. Or perhaps the way of life that aligns with what others expect from you, yet leaves you feeling empty inside. There are no easy answers, but there is one thing you can do. Start questioning. Begin to ask yourself, without fear, whether what you're holding on to truly belongs to you, or if you have merely carried it because that's what you were taught to do. Reinventing yourself at 40 or at any age is not about starting over from scratch. It's about beginning to live with real intention. It's about taking ownership of your story instead of following the script you never wrote. It's about trusting your intuition, believing your own ability to guide yourself toward what truly matters. Jung believed that the most profound transformation occurs when we stop looking for answers outside of ourselves and instead turn inward. And when you do this, when you truly commit to self-exploration, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start attracting the people and experiences that genuinely align with your essence. Synchronicity, as Jung called it, becomes a natural part of your life. Opportunities appear at exactly the right moment. The puzzle pieces of your existence begin to fit together, not because you're doing everything right, but because for the first time, you are living in authenticity. But this path is not for everyone. It requires courage. It demands that you let go of what no longer resonates with you. It asks you to accept that the life you're built may not be the life you truly desire, and that realization can be terrifying, but it is also the beginning of something far greater. The real question is, are you ready to discover who you truly are? When you start looking within, when you dare to challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself, something begins to shift. At first, it may feel like chaos, as if the foundation of your identity is crumbling. But this collapse is not the end. It is a necessary process of breaking down illusions so that you can rebuild yourself in a way that is more honest, more aligned, more real. Carl Jung believed that true transformation does not come from adding more layers to your identity. It comes from shedding what is not real. It comes from releasing what is not truly yours. It comes from letting go of everything you have unconsciously accumulated, everything that has distanced you from your authentic self. This process is not easy. It requires letting go letting go of ideas that once gave you security, letting go of relationships that, though familiar, no longer nurture your growth, letting go of a lifestyle that no longer represents who you are becoming. But what most people fail to understand is that letting go is not about losing. Letting go is about making space. It is about creating the room necessary for something new to emerge. And that something new is not external. It is not another job, another relationship, another temporary fix. It is you, your true essence, finally given the chance to step into the light after being buried for far too long. One of the greatest traps on this journey is fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of not being enough. Fear of taking control of your own life. Carl Jung spoke of this fear as a manifestation of the unconscious, an invisible force within us that tries to shield us from change. But here lies a great paradox. What truly harms us is not change itself, but our resistance to it. Life never stops moving. It is in a constant state of flux, an ever-evolving current that does not wait for anyone. If you cling to what no longer is life, if you hold on to things, people, or beliefs that no longer serve you, you will inevitably begin to feel trapped, stuck, as if you are merely surviving instead of truly living. Perhaps you have felt this at some point, the sensation that on the surface, everything appears fine. Your routine is in order, your responsibilities are met, but deep inside, there's an undeniable emptiness, a silent void that whispers to you in moments of stillness, a feeling that something within you knows there is more, that something greater is waiting for you, that you are meant for something beyond the familiar, but you don't know how to get there. That feeling is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Quite the opposite. It is a sign that you are ready to evolve. It is your unconscious mind pushing you toward the next step, urging you to grow, to expand, to become more of who you truly are. But this is precisely where most people get stuck. Instead of listening to this inner calling, instead of trusting that pull towards something new, they cling to the old. They convince themselves that it's too late, that change is too difficult, that it's safer to remain where they are, even if that place feels like a slow suffocation to the soul. And so, the years pass. They accumulate a life that feels less and less like their own. Jung had a radically different perspective on time. For him, time was not a straight line, not something that simply moved forward without purpose. He saw it as an internal process of maturation, of integration, of awakening. True youth, he believed, is not about age. It is about the ability to renew oneself, to allow transformation to happen over and over again. And this has nothing to do with how many years you've lived, but with how willing you are to reinvent yourself, to let go of outdated versions of who you are and step into a new reality. If you are at a point in your life where you feel the need for change but don't know where to begin, there's something crucial you must understand. Change does not happen externally. It is not a new job. It is not a new relationship. It is not moving to another city. These are only superficial shifts. True change is an internal transformation. It is a process of deep self-inquiry, of asking yourself difficult questions, of looking at your own reflection without fear, of facing what you truly feel in the depths of your being. And the key to this entire process lies in the shadow. Jung taught that the shadow is not something evil. It is not something to be eliminated. It is a part of you that has been repressed, ignored, or denied for too long. And if you do not recognize it, if you do not integrate it, it will continue to rule your life in the darkness. It will manifest as repetitive patterns, as relationships that frustrate you, as emotions that seem to come out of nowhere. The shadow does not disappear simply because you ignore it. In fact, the more you avoid it, the stronger it becomes. The only way to free yourself from it is to face it. What is it that truly scares me about myself? What aspect of my personality have I tried to hide? What emotions have I not allowed myself to feel? This is where many people choose to run, because facing the shadow means acknowledging that there are parts of you that you have refused to accept. It means recognizing that you have made mistakes, that you have made choices out of fear rather than conviction, that you have allowed the world to define who you are instead of discovering it for yourself. But what most people fail to realize is that in confronting the shadow, we also uncover our greatest source of power, because within the shadow, there are not only fears and wounds, there is also your authenticity, your raw creativity, your true essence, Think about the moments when you have felt truly alive, those moments when you have spoken with passion, when you have acted without fear or judgment, when you have felt deeply connected to something greater than yourself. Those moments were not coincidences. They were glimpses of your real self, moments when you were unfiltered, unconditioned, unlimited. And what Jung tells us is that you don't have to wait for those moments to come by chance. You can live from that place all the time, but to do so, you must be willing to strip away everything that is not truly you. This is the true rebirth. It is not about starting from scratch, but about starting with truth, the truth of who you are, the truth of what you truly desire, the truth of what you can no longer hold on to in your life. And this truth, though it may seem terrifying at first, is the only thing that will truly give you the peace you have been searching for all along. People who have gone through this process describe it as an awakening, like finally open their eyes after years of being asleep. It is as if for the first time, they can see everything with absolute clarity. Every decision they make no longer comes from fear, from obligation, or from a need to please others, but from a place of deep authenticity. And when this shift happens, everything changes. Your relationships transform because you are no longer chasing external validation. You seek real, meaningful connections. The opportunities that come into your life shift because you are no longer operating from a mindset of scarcity, but from a deep sense of certainty about your own worth. Your energy changes because you are no longer wasting on sustaining a false version of yourself, one that was created to fit into a mold that was never truly yours. But let's be clear, this process is not instantaneous. It is not something that happens overnight. It is a journey, and like all great journeys, it requires patience, courage, and unwavering commitment. Every step you take in the direction of your true self is a step towards a fuller, more meaningful existence. And if you ever feel like it is too late to change, remember this. Transformation is always available to those who have the courage to face it. It does not matter how many years you have spent living a life that does not represent you. The only thing that matters is whether, today, you choose to take that first step towards your truth. And when you do, something extraordinary will begin to unfold. You will not only feel lighter, freer, or more aligned with yourself, but you will also start to notice how everything in your life begins to synchronize in ways that once seemed impossible. This is not coincidence. It is what Carl Jung referred to as synchronicity, the universe's way of affirming that you are on the right path. It is life responding to your decision to be authentic. There is no predefined roadmap for this journey, no checklist of steps to follow. The only real guide is your willingness to look inward, to ask yourself the difficult questions, to release what no longer resonates with you. And in doing so, you will discover yourself, not a new version of you, but the version that has always been there, waiting to emerge. And here's the magic. When you start living from a place of authenticity, the things that once seemed impossible begin to happen effortlessly, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You have stopped forcing yourself to fit into places where you do not belong. You have let go of the desperate need for approval. You have started trusting your own voice. And when you do this, something incredible happens. You become a magnet for everything that is truly meant for you. The right people will enter your life. The right opportunities will appear. Doors that once seemed permanently closed will swing wide open. Not because you were suddenly lucky, but because you are finally aligned with who you were always meant to be. There is something crucial you must understand on this journey. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will be ready to accept your transformation. Some people will want you to remain the version of yourself they have always known, the version that is familiar, predictable, and comfortable for them. They may resist your evolution because it challenges their expectations, their perception of who you are, and perhaps even their own stagnant realities. And this is where many people hesitate. They feel an overwhelming fear of disappointing others, fear of rejection, fear of losing what they have built so far. But what life teaches us over and over again is that losing what is not authentic is not a loss at all. It is liberation. True growth requires shedding the layers of yourself that no longer align with who you are becoming. You cannot build a fulfilling, meaningful life if you continue to cling to what drains you, to what no longer serves your highest potential. This is one of the greatest challenges of personal rebirth. It is not just about discovering yourself, but about having the courage to stand firm in that truth. even when the world around you does not understand. And this does not mean fighting those who refuse to support you, nor does it mean desperately trying to convince others to accept your new self. Instead, it means living from a place of authenticity without apologies, without unnecessary justifications. Because when you do that, when you finally allow yourself to be who you truly are, you begin to attract the right people into your life. People who genuinely resonate with your energy. People with whom you do not have to pretend. People who accept and embrace you without conditions, without expectations, without hidden agendas. But here's the thing, this process does not happen overnight. As you change, you may experience moments of loneliness. You may realize that certain relationships you once considered essential begin to fade away. You may go through periods of uncertainty, where you feel as though you'll let go of the old, yet the new has not fully arrived. This is normal. It is part of the process. And the key to navigating this transition is patience. Patience to allow the transformation to unfold at its own pace. Patience to trust that, even if you cannot yet see the final destination, every step you take toward your authentic self is a step in the right direction. The journey of self-discovery is not about rushing toward the final version of yourself. It is about embracing the unfolding, trusting the unknown, and allowing the right things to fall into place naturally. Something fascinating happens when you start listening to your intuition. You begin to realize that it was always there, guiding you, whispering to you, sending you signals along the way. But for so long, you were too distracted, too busy trying to fit into external expectations to notice it. Carl Jung believed that intuition is the voice of the unconscious, the way our deepest self communicates, directing us toward what truly belongs to us. And the reason so many people feel lost is not because they lack a purpose, but because they have stopped listening to that inner voice. They have silenced their own knowing in favor of external validation. They have ignored the gentle nudges of their soul in order to meet the expectations imposed upon them by society, family, or even their own fears. But the truth is, that voice never disappears. It is always waiting for you to turn inward, to trust it once more. And when you finally do, when you choose to listen, to trust, and to follow its guidance, you'll find that the path has been illuminated all along. Reconnecting with intuition is not an instant process. It requires dedication, awareness, and continuous practice. In a world filled with external noise, distraction, and societal expectations, learning to listen to that quiet yet profound inner voice demands patience. It requires the ability to filter out the chaos of the outside world and differentiate between fear, an impulse rooted in past conditioning, and true inner guidance, which comes from a place of wisdom and deep knowing. More importantly, embracing intuition means being willing to act on it, even when logic offers no immediate explanation for why something feels right or wrong. This is where synchronicity comes into play, a concept Carl Jung explored extensively. He discovered that when you align yourself with your true path, the universe responds in ways that seem almost miraculous. Suddenly, the right people appear in your life at the precise moment you need them. Doors that once seemed firmly shut swing open effortlessly. Opportunities that once felt out of reach materialize, as if by magic. But make no mistake, synchronicity is not mere coincidence, nor is it some mystical force beyond comprehension. It is the external manifestation of an internal transformation. It is a universe reflecting back to you the alignment you have created within yourself. It serves as confirmation that you are walking the right path. Yet, to experience these moments of flow and alignment, you must first take the leap of faith. You must trust your inner truth. Even when there is no immediate, tangible proof that everything will work out, you must release the need for total control, the need for guarantees, and the illusion of absolute security. True security does not come from meticulously planning every step of your life. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you'll always have the ability to adapt, to learn, and to grow. Choosing to live authentically does not mean life will suddenly become free of challenges. There will still be moments of doubt. There will still be obstacles that test your commitment to yourself. However, the difference lies in how you approach these challenges. Instead of reacting from a place of fear, you begin to face them with confidence. Confidence that every difficulty is an opportunity to strengthen yourself. Confidence that every apparent loss is simply making space for something greater. confidence that every experience, whether pleasant or difficult, carries a purpose, one that serves your highest evolution. One of the most profound lessons Jung taught us is that true transformation never comes from external sources. It is not something that someone else can give you. It is not something you can find outside of yourself. Real change is an awakening, a process of discovering what has always been within you. And this awakening is not bound by age, nor does it have a predetermined timeline. It can happen at 40, at 50, at 60, or at any point in life when you decide that you no longer wish to live according to a script that was never truly yours. What makes this process so powerful is that it does not merely shift your relationship with yourself. It fundamentally changes the way you experience the world. When you live in alignment with your truth, relationships are no longer spaces of dependency, but of genuine connection. Decisions are no longer made from a place of fear, but from a place of clarity and inner certainty. Life no longer feels like an endless series of obligations, but rather an authentic expression of who you are. When you begin to live from your truth, when you dare let go of everything that no longer represents you, you start to experience a deep, unshakable peace, one that does not depend on anything external. No, this is not a fleeting moment of happiness, nor is it a superficial sense of tranquility. It is something far more profound. It is the deep and unwavering certainty that you are exactly where you are meant to be. It is a realization that you no longer need to prove anything to anyone, that you no longer have to seek outside yourself for something that has always been within you. This does not mean that life suddenly becomes perfect. Challenges will still arise. Moments of doubt will still creep in. But the difference now is that you stand on a solid foundation. You no longer react from fear, but from awareness. You no longer get lost in relationships or situations that drain you because you have learned to listen to your intuition. You have come to understand that life is not something that simply happens to you. It is something that you create moment by moment, with every thought you think, every decision you make, and every action you take from a place of authenticity. This is a true rebirth. It is not about changing your external circumstances. It is about changing the way you live. It is an internal transformation that shifts everything. Not because the world around you has changed, but because you have changed. You have stepped out of autopilot and begun to live with intention. You have stopped settling for things that do not fulfill you and started choosing from a place of self-love. You have stopped following the script that others wrote for you and have begun to write your own story. And the most beautiful part, this story is just beginning. It does not matter how old you are. It does not matter how long you have lived in a way that did not align with your true essence. The truth is, you can always start again. You can always choose a different path, one that is more fulfilling, more authentic, and more aligned with who you truly are. The only thing you need is willingness. The willingness to see what you have been avoiding. The willingness to let go of what no longer resonates with your soul. And a willingness to trust that within you lies a wisdom far greater than you ever imagined. And when you make that decision, when you dare live in full authenticity, something incredible happens. Everything begins to flow. The right people enter your life. The right opportunities present themselves. Doors that once seemed invisible suddenly appear and swing open. Not because they weren't there before, but because now you are able to see them. This is the moment to take control of your life. Do not wait for circumstances to change. Do not wait for someone else to give you permission. Do not wait until you feel completely ready. The path to authenticity is not something that happens overnight.